So into the arena steps the man from Argentina, Ruben Nestor Neri Munoz, 28 years of age. And he brings to the ring 18 wins, 14 of them inside the distance. He's already claimed regional titles in the professional ranks. The WBA Fed Latin champion. And he's approaching the boxing ring for an eliminator for the WBA world title. Significant moments in this young man's career, 28 contests in. No stranger to fighting outside of Argentina, having competed in Russia in his last outing. And he was the one who scored a spectacular KO over the man that he will be facing off against tonight. It was a ruinous shot that he uncoiled against Khariton Agrba up into the black corner.
And now his opponent, fighting out of the gold corner, making his way to the ring, please welcome Khariton Agrba.
So one wonders what will be going through the mind of Khariton Agrba now. No stranger to the IBA.PRO scene, long touted as one of the best prospects in the business. Was getting write-ups in Ring magazine from either before his pro debut or just around that time early on in his career. Didn't put a foot wrong, rattling off victories in his first slate of contests before running into the man he's about to face tonight. And he appeared incredibly comfortable. That was as recently as July. And the shot which caught him in the pocket, overhand, and it was as though somebody had pulled the plug. So psychologically, will the man in the other corner be seeking to have those demons and doubts resurface in this man's mind again?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
And now, ladies and
really
gentlemen,
is something to come back from, because there will be scarring there. There's no question about that.
IBA.PRO 13 with 12 3-minute rounds, and this is an eliminator for the WBA Super Lightweight Championship of the World. Our referee in charge when the bell rings is Guillermo Perez Pineda, and our 3 judges scoring this bout at ringside: Giuseppe Quartaroni, Rafael Ramos, and Glenn Feldman. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's meet the fighters first. Fighting out of the black corner, wearing the black trunks with gold trim, he weighed in at 63.7 kilos. He enters the ring tonight with a professional record of 18 victories versus 2 defeats, with 14 of those wins coming by way of a knockout. Fighting out of Bahia Blanca, Buenos Aires, Argentina, introducing the WBA Fed Latino champion, damas y caballeros, presentando Ruben El Ungido Munoz. And now his opponent, standing across the ring, fighting out of the gold corner, wearing the gray trunks with purple trim. He stands 5 feet 9 inches tall. He weighed in at 63.35 kilos. Tonight, he enters the ring with a near-perfect professional record of 16 victories versus just 1 defeat, with 9 of those wins coming by way of knockout. Fighting out of Volgodonsk, Russia, introducing the current IBF European champion, Khariton Agrba.
So the referee brings both boxers together for the final instructions. Let's take a look at this stare down.
Good fight, good look, okay?
Phlegmatic expression onto the face of Khariton Agrba, not trying to give anything away as he's about to enter the opening bell against a man who knocked him out in rather spectacular fashion just a few months ago. They're the tail of the tape. Very little in between them in terms of height. And this an eliminator for the WBA super lightweight title. Not sure whether it's a final eliminator, so whether the winner will get next, but it does get them closer to the top of the pyramid for that WBA super lightweight strap. It's a rematch between boxers from Argentina and Russia. And the boxer wearing the principally black trunks with the elaborate gold tassels and that impression of the Argentinian flag on the legs. That is Ruben Munoz. And the boxer operating out of the southpaw stance wearing the silver trunks with a slash of purple and the black waistband is Khariton Agrba. And again, these two men met in July, and it started off in this type of tenor before a short shot on the inside completely wiped out the resistance and indeed the ambitions of Khariton Agrba. So what type of approach will the Argentinian boxer take? Agrba just exploring the space of the perimeter of the boxing ring. You can see from the physique of Munoz, that broad back. It's almost like an inverted triangle. Because when he pivots on that tiny waist and gets leverage off the back foot, it's like swinging a set of panniers. And that's how he's able to uncoil power with no real wind-up, assuming he timed the shot correctly. I think that top rope's going to need some attention, but that's for the referee to deal with at an appropriate moment, possibly in between rounds. But Agrba just circling the ring, both clockwise and counterclockwise. He's Munoz trying to get close to try and have that doubt resurfaced after that spectacular inside the distance victory this summer. So seeking to get closer with his feet is Munoz. And keeping a good job, doing a good job keeping the movement going is Agrba. But his back is almost constantly skimming the ropes. There he looked to maintain a gap with a bit of a southpaw right jab. But it's a very safety-first approach, this, from the Russian boxer. Munoz landing a good left hand, but he's countered immediately by a southpaw left to the body. And now look at the quickening of the feet of Munoz, and he seeks to get inside, and with the gloves bracketing the head, there is an avenue of opportunity in between the forearms, and that is what Munoz just thought to explore there. He's quickening the feet to get closer. Agrba turned the tables and fired the left cross as the bell sounds.
Well, it was exactly as you described that. Agrba was cautious. He's working that outer clock face. He's not wanting to give anything away, and Munoz looks like a man who seems confident that he's going to be able to repeat what he did in July tonight, and he's looked like that all week, to be honest. When I saw him at the press conference, he was really quick to take his seat on the top table. Had the flag, was well kitted out, all of that. You could sense that he's come here feeling like he's got his man's number, and that was decent from him in the opening round as well, because he's not gone crazy and gone after him. He can see that Agrba's in his shell, and I feel like he's confident that he's going to take him back to hell like he did in July, because when you find yourself on the end of a defeat like that, as I said at the start, it does take some coming back from. He will have thought about little else since then. They've had him a fight in the interim, and he got the win. But the really key thing is what is going to happen the first time Munoz really lands on him. How is he going to react?
So as we move into round two, that fight that Andy's referring to, I commentated on that contest. His first fight back since that ruinous left hand caught him. And of course, there's no such thing as an innocuous punch in the boxing ring. But it was a short left on the inside, and it's not as though he loaded up or wound up, but I think it epitomized the boxing truism of the shots that are most ruinous are the ones that you don't see. And it seemed to catch Agrba completely unsighted, and down he went. You can see how concentrated he is behind those high-held gloves. Takes a left hand to the body as Munoz keen to bring the hands down. And the type of posture that they were just in, as Agrba circumnavigating the boxing ring, they were there, almost kneecap to kneecap, toe to toe on the inside. And the punch came from out of the line of vision. And so I think it wouldn't be overstating it to say Agrba literally didn't know what had hit him. He knew that it was Munoz who was in the ring with, but he didn't see where the shot is coming from. It was almost they was cheap shotted from behind. And that's how he wound up on the canvas. So that's going to take some coming to terms with. And Munoz just took a straight shot in between his gloves. But Agrba clocking up an awful lot of mileage in the course of this first round and a half. He's keeping his shape nicely, and of course he will have trained for this very eventuality if this is the tactical approach he's taking tonight. But under the lights on fight night with a crowd of largely Russian support, I'm not sure how many boxing aficionados are in the house tonight and to what extent they're going to appreciate the finer arts of the sweet science, because a lot of fans I've been speaking to during the course of this week have been looking forward to this IBA.PRO night, and they want to see action, two-way action, rather than demonstration of back foot boxing and pot shot punch picking. There's a straight shot in between the gloves as Munoz continues his pursuit. From Munoz's point of view, as he did get closer with a right hook behind the left glove of Agrba and an uppercut through the middle, he's got to ensure that he doesn't follow Agrba around the boxing ring, and his movements have to have real purpose and seek to cut the man off, because he doesn't want to get involved in a game of chase here. Left jab in between the gloves from Munoz, wasn't too far away. And Agrba trying to maintain a bit of a gap and establish the range with his jab. You see that uppercut through the middle, skimming the glove defenses of Agrba. Agrba, sneaky southpaw left while jamming on his ankles. Oh, that's a nice counter left hand to the body from Agrba. Second round completed, almost a mirror image of the first.
It absolutely is, and I just wonder, is Agrba going to try and do this all night, or is he going to do this in the early stages and then look to be a bit more expansive as he builds a bit of confidence maybe and gets into the fight? Because the reality is, it's very hard to win a fight in the professional ring doing this. It's really hard. Sometimes you watch someone and you feel like they've executed it perfectly, and judges don't like it, and they just won't give it to you if you're going to do this. So we'll see. It's only 2 rounds in. Munoz is doing the right thing, as you said. What he can't do is fall into the trap of following his man around and start wasting shots and getting frustrated. I can't help but notice on the far side of the ring, we have now got Artur Beterbiev, and just a couple of minutes ago, Maris Bridis was sat next to him as well. I mean, that is, what a combo that is.
Absolutely sensational. Bridis has been here supporting his compatriots for the IBA Men's World Boxing Championships. It's a rest day here today, but in the same venue tomorrow. The sessions will resume and the gold medal bouts will take place. But here and now it is IBA.PRO boxing, IBA.PRO 13. That has got our focus of attention. And Khariton Agrba, in against a man who knocked him out in the summer. As we've been pointing out, Agrba has fought since. It's an immediate return against a man he conquered for Munoz, because he hasn't taken a fight in between. So is he perhaps overconfident coming in, thinking that all I've got to do is touch this man on the chin and I'm going to get him out of there? So a really interesting psychological battle will have been unfolding. I've been around boxers in their camps when they've scored a knockout victory, and when I've asked them about how the victor, as Agrba looks to turn the tables, when I've asked the victorious team about how they think the rematch is going to go, I don't think it's overstating it to say that in a majority of instances, they always say to me, well, you can't put muscles on your chin. I don't care how hard the other guy trains. All my guy's got to do is touch him, and it's going to be the same outcome. So has that level of confidence that can creep into complacency been evident in the build-up of Munoz? These are professionals, of course, but they're not automatons, and so you can't just plug in the data and hope that you get the correct response. So it's going to be very interesting indeed. As Munoz continuing to pursue his man, Agrba doing an outstanding job keeping the movement going. But if you are going to play the back foot boxer, I think there's got to be more offense in that posture than is being produced right now from Agrba. 2 rounds completed and 2 minutes of the third, and it is almost been It's like we're watching a video on a loop because it's the same pattern over and over. Counter left hand was a scoring shot from Agrba, and now he's into the space of center ring. Perhaps the longest he's spent in ring center, and it's Munoz with his back near the ropes. There that time Agrba not retreating, rather spinning off the line. Counter left hand is a creative, sneaky shot from Agrba, and it was effective as he just begins to come out of his shell a little bit more here, deep into this third round. And again, Munoz, from his point of view, hasn't been able to catch the man with anything significant. So is that one sneaky southpaw left going to be significant enough to tilt the round in favor of the Russian boxer?
It's an interesting point, this, I think, because it looks to me like Agrba's trying to just kind of grind his way into the fight, if you like, feel his way into the fight. He's still got scarring from what this man did to him last time they met, and he's trying to build a little bit of confidence. Munoz, for his part, doesn't want to chase him around and go too gung-ho and empty the tank and just assume that he can walk him down and knock him out. But he can't just let him keep doing this, I don't think, because who knows who's winning these rounds, to be perfectly honest with you, but he is building a bit of confidence. I think Munoz now needs to get on that front foot, and he needs to try and give it to him, because that's what he did last time, and he knocked him out. And the memory of that is still there. He needs sooner rather than later now to try and put him in a position, Agrba, where we see what happens when something like that kind of scenario is recreated, because he cannot just let him dance around all night. It brings to mind, it's not the same thing, but when Anthony Joshua rematched Andy Ruiz, for example, Joshua was fearful of getting hit. You could see by the way he fought. Ruiz wasn't capable of closing the gap, and he boxed well, but he was fearful of getting hit. Munoz has got to ask the questions.
So we're into round number 4. And unlike Andy Ruiz, in that rematch in Saudi Arabia, Munoz looks as though he's come in magnificent condition. Whereas Ruiz, by his own explanation subsequently, said that when his father wanted him in camp at the back end of July, I don't think he showed up until September. That crown can often be very heavy to wear when you become the heavyweight champ. And Ruiz won it in spectacular fashion at the Garden, but wasn't able to make it a long reign because Anthony Joshua boxed effectively on the back foot to become a 2-time titleist. So Munoz, well, at the moment, as strange as it may seem to say, it's Agrba who is boxing this contest on his terms, and that's minimal contact, no engagement, maintaining a gap on the back foot. Munoz has got to do something different. Can he get close and make it physical? But these pecking, poking punches, I'm not sure whether they're landing. I'm not quite sure whether they're landing with sufficient force, if they are landing, to be registered or considered as point-scoring shots. I think that left cross in between the gloves was. But Munoz has got to try and implement some type of adaptive strategy here, because right now it's almost resembling a track meet up there in the boxing ring. Agrba up on his toes, moving clockwise and counterclockwise. His back, it's as though he's been in the sun without any protection, because he's skimmed across the ropes for that much, Agrba, that it's becoming increasingly reddened. And so Munoz has got to try and prevent that. Cut the man off now with a big stride right when he's moving left, and just rough him up, hit him where you can with heavy shots in a bid to try and bring those hands down and force the man to engage. Because right now, whether you call it Dancing with the Stars or Strictly Come Dancing, wherever you are in the world, this is resembling an episode of that. And the onus surely is on Munoz, the man who scored the victory last time, to try and change things, because just to get himself into a groove, Agrba is using these rounds almost as a reconnaissance mission, thinking that the contest will really get underway in the second half. Remember, it's scheduled for 12. It's an eliminator for the WBA super lightweight title. And right now, Agrba is surely getting in his 10,000 steps for the day, that's for sure. He might have done that through the first 3 rounds, because he has not stopped moving, and Munoz hasn't been able to catch him with anything clean, solid, or significant.
No, that's absolutely right. He hasn't, and I think that Agrba is going to do this for as long as he possibly can. He stepped into the centre of the ring a couple more times in that round and in the previous round, and has looked to put his hands together a little bit more, so maybe that confidence is growing a bit, and maybe there's the recognition there that you do need to do that bit more. But I don't think he's going to change tactics here unless he's forced to by Munoz, and as you were saying, Munoz does have to force him to, because it's good to be composed. As we said at the start, you don't want to go out of the blocks like a lunatic trying to tear your opponent apart. At this kind of level, that just doesn't work, but at the same time, you can be too patient. And I don't think we're there yet, because we're 4 rounds in, of course, and how judges score these rounds is going to be, it's impossible to guess, to be honest with you. But at the same time, Munoz has got to try and just very deliberately inject some pace here, because if you get too used to going in one gear, it can be hard to click up, can't it?
Absolutely. So we're moving to round number 5. And there's plenty of encouragement coming from the support teams of both boxers. But it's a rather subdued crowd in attendance here, and they've been really vocal all week long for the 3-round contest of the IBA Men's World Boxing Championships and the prelims that we've had here on IBA.PRO 13, starting with Estelle Marcelli's return to the boxing ring at 4 p.m. local time. It's a 12-fight extravaganza we've got, where our main event is for the WBA regular heavyweight championship of the world. That will wrap things up. But right here and now, we have getting some cries of Agrba and Rustia. Oh, that's a solid straight shot, and again, you can't afford to get hypnotized or beguiled by this footwork, Munoz. And he has got to remind himself what his objective is, and that is a repeat victory over the man he knocked out in July. Because this familiarity is becoming, well, it's a long-established pattern now, 4.5 rounds in. Good left hand to the body is a sneaky shot from Agrba. And I don't think his chin has been touched once here tonight. And if the chin is being so effectively protected by those high-held gloves and forearms, I'm not suggesting he strays into rabbit punch territory, but try for the temple. Why not aim a shot for the ear? Why not try and prise the gloves down, as Vasyl Lomachenko was so adept at doing during his majestic run, both in the 3-round format and the professionals. Georgie Benton from days of yore would employ similar tactics. Master exponent to the Philly Shell, renowned trainer once he retired from competing in the roped arena. But Munoz, I fear he's becoming a little bit one-paced here. And it's not that, and it's the pace that Agrba is setting. When Agrba quickens his feet, he quickens his feet. When Agrba slows down, he's slowing down. So the man calling the shot and orchestrating the tempo of this ring activity is the boxer on the back foot. And Agrba has got to do something, Munoz has got to do something different here to make Agrba change his tune. Check right hand as Agrba spun off the line. Sneaky left hook, so the punch output is being picked up. And again, single phase attack, 2 attempts at uppercut through the guard, and a 10-second clapper indicates we're at the end of the round again. And it's another round where Agrba has dictated the terms on which this is being fought.
It absolutely is, and I'd love to know how the judges are scoring this, but if they're looking purely at clean punches landed, which is exactly what they should be looking for, then he could well be 5-0 up, couldn't he? Because if you look at the punches that have been picked, the ones that are landed clean have mostly been from Agrba. They've not done any damage to Munoz, but Munoz has barely landed a thing. He has barely landed a thing. But having said that, judges in professional boxing, they struggle to reward this a lot of the time. They, rightly or wrongly, whatever people might think about it, they do struggle to reward these kinds of tactics. And maybe Munoz is thinking that he's probably picking up his share here, and now is not quite the right time just to push the button. But he's getting himself into some positions at times and then just not really letting his hands go. He's just throwing the odd single, and then Agrba will move, and he'll move with him, and he'll cover off the movement okay, but you just feel like he's got to do something here. He's got to try and switch it up.
So, into the 6th round. And Munoz, again, Agrba slowed his feet down and accepting this dance. Is Munoz, there he's closer, but he's only letting go singles as he's seeking to, almost looking for the perfect shot in between the defenses. Why not seek, as he did there, to try and get behind the elbows of Agrba? And I know it's easier said than done, of course, when you're in with an opponent whose objective is to remain out of harm's way. But Munoz and his corner, they've got to come up with something different, because we're 50 seconds into this round. There's a probing right cross to the body, and maybe that will be a shot that could lower the hands and slow down the movement of Agrba. Maybe he's got to punch when Agrba is punching. Take a risk. And cries of Khariton, Khariton, rising up around the Dubai duty-free tennis arena, and I can tell you the man leading the cheers, and there's a cut high on the hairline of Munoz. Was that caused by a clash of heads? Again, never a good time or place to be cut in a boxing ring, but it doesn't appear to be around the eyes. Left hand slung into the body. Now he's got to get busy. That's what his corner right next to our commentary team are encouraging him to do, but instead he's finding his head pinged backwards by straight shot clusters from Agrba. Will the injury spur Munoz into life? Good left hand to the body. Now where's the follow-up? Where's the sustained pressure? Instead it's a double jab right hand success from Agrba. And again, it's Agrba still continuing to let go straight punches. Counter right hand over the top was inaccurate from Munoz, but at least he found Agrba. Did he manage to draw him off the ropes? Agrba was off the ropes. He has, of his own volition, moved into the middle of the ring. He's continuing to pile up the points here. Effective defenses with the gloves from Munoz. And again, I don't think you can wait, and maybe he's got to punch when Agrba is punching. 9 knockouts in the 16 victories for Agrba. Terrific 3-shot combination from Agrba, and where's the response from Munoz? There's another 10-second clapper, and it must be another round that he has dropped here, because even though he is trying to apply aggression, remember, for aggression to be favored by judges, the key prefix is effective aggression, and no disrespect intended, this hasn't been very effective because he's not landed any scoring shots of note.
No, that's absolutely right. I thought that was a good round from Agrba because he came off the ropes a bit, he set his feet a little bit more, and he got some good shots away. Munoz looked to be a bit more aggressive as well, and there's quite a lot of blood coming from that cut on the side of the head. I'm just looking for a signal from the referee. I think it was probably a head clash, but he's going to have to be prepared to take a couple to land his own, Munoz, here, and just try and walk through Agrba, basically, because Agrba, let's not forget, European Games silver medalist, a good amateur. He's had a good professional career so far, just that one defeat. He's always been tipped for big things. The skill level is high. What Munoz has got over him is the fact that he chinned him when they first met, and he's got to try and take him back there. He's got to try and put those flashbacks in his mind, because, as you say, so far, he hasn't hit that chin once, has he?
So, not quite sure what the referee is doing. I think he's inspecting the cut. I didn't know if he was going to call for the inspection of the doctor. No gloves either being donned by the referee. As we move into the second half of this WBA Eliminator for the super lightweight title. WBA's champion is Gary Antoine Russell from the Fighting Family Russell. Talent-laden division with Richardson Hitchens for the IBF. Teofimo Lopez, of course, have got a date with Shakur Stevenson. Sabril Matthias, the controversy surrounding the A and B samples in his forthcoming contest at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn against Britain's Dalton Smith. The winner of this will get themselves in the orbit of those type of titleists, particularly for the WBA. But again, it's an eliminator, but we don't know. Well, it's not a final eliminator. So the blood just beginning to appear on the forehead of Munoz again, but the same pattern has resumed. And he's got to, at some point, into the second half of the contest, surely take a little bit of risk and try and change something. Because there's one conductor, one orchestrator up there in the boxing ring at present, and it is Agrba. So now, where's the digging away on the inside? Where's the waiting for the ref to call break and intervene? Rough him up, not suggesting any foul play, but just land leather on something. Because right now, he's not landing leather on anything on a consistent basis. And the single phase attacks are proving pretty easy to neutralize for Khariton Agrba, who just peers from behind his shell, occasionally letting straight punches go. He's not putting anything on them, but he is placing them accurately. Counter left hand was a scoring shot from Agrba. Munoz continuing to reach and probe. And as we move into the second half of the contest, he's got to ensure that he doesn't become frustrated. Keep his mind on the job and his focus on the mission he came to Dubai to accomplish. And again, he's waiting, and he's not pulling the trigger. Double left hand is a really eye-catching combination from Agrba. Single lead right hand attempted, but no use of the jab, no use of straight shots from Munoz. And I wonder whether he's going to be enveloped by frustration if he carries on in this vein, because the 10-second clapper is imminent, and on each 10-second clapper, Agrba has produced a burst just to leave a favorable impression in the mind of the judges. There's a good left hand to the body from Agrba, followed by a right hand over the top, and almost right on cue, he's executed the same tactic effectively once again.
He absolutely has. I think from a spectator's point of view, probably the best thing that could happen here is for Munoz to lose his rag a bit and get frustrated and try and chase the fight, because we need something from him. And the corner's right up above us, they're nice and calm, but at what point are they going to tell him that he might be 7 rounds down here? Because he very well could be. I said before, the judges struggle sometimes to give people rounds when they're being too negative. You couldn't say that about him now, Agrba, I don't think, not the last few rounds, but certainly the first 2 or 3 you could, so I'm not entirely sure where they would have gone with them. But Agrba is winning these rounds clearly at the minute, and Munoz, as we keep saying, has got to do something. And if they're not going to light the fire under him in the corner, then his own frustration might just have to do the job, because this is a fairly listless performance so far. He can't do 12 rounds of this. Surely you can't.
Well, as we move into round number 8, if he continues in the tenor that he's demonstrated so far, I think it is going to be a very frustrating plane ride back to the Argentinian capital, because he's come over with his confidence through the roof at having taken out the highly touted Khariton Agrba in Russia in his last outing back in July. And thus far, well, without wishing to overstate it, without the injury that has been sustained, I'm sure he could put those gloves back in the packet and resell them as new, because he's hardly landed anything. He's followed his man around the boxing ring at a pace that Agrba is setting, but he's not tested the chin that was cracked so emphatically back in the summer. Now there he is. Let your hands go, Munoz. That's what his corner are telling him to do. But just one left hand around the right elbow, surely he's got to let himself off the leash at some point, because it must be in his mind that he's losing the contest. So to his corner, again, he's the man pressing, but he's not really scoring upon Agrba. And crucially, from his perspective, from a psychological perspective, he hasn't laid a glove on that jaw. Well, there is beginning to be something of a hypnotic quality about this. You look at it long enough, you could well lull yourself to sleep, because it's the same pattern over and over and over. It's like watching one of those black and white optical illusion spirals, and it's going around and around, and you're trying to keep your eyes on it, not have the eyelids start getting droopy. But Agrba, fair play to him. He's doing exactly what he's intending to do, and that's keep the movement going, keep piling up the points, show your versatile repertoire of punches, and keep that jaw out of the way of Munoz's fists. And again, encouragement coming vocally from the corner of Munoz. Now he is trying to quicken his feet, but is that because Agrba's quickened his feet? I think he's got to take some more risks here, Munoz, because he simply cannot catch Agrba. Oh, that is a cracking left uppercut. It was preceded by a right hand. He just held the feet momentarily and fired in a left uppercut. Now, almost, if he can hold his feet to fire in a power punch like that, that means he's there for a minute. And so when I'm suggesting that Munoz has got to punch with him, that was a prime example of when he's got to do that. In the presence of Denis Lebedev, their man must be leading by a considerable distance.
He has to be. He has to be now, you would say. And Munoz ending that round on the canvas. And what's interesting about watching this too is that it's not just the fact that we know that this man knocked his opponent out the last time they met. It's just that there's no physicality about what Munoz is doing at all. He's following his man around the ring, but at no point is he getting a hold of him and trying to throw him into the ropes, or when he tries to spin off his front foot, just body checking him, almost stepping across him, trying to shut that door. It's all very neat and tidy and submissive and compliant, basically, isn't it? And these are not good words to use to describe a fighter, but we're repeating ourselves, but we don't really have a lot of choice because we're seeing the same thing over and over again.
Indeed.
But always give credit to the man who's winning the rounds, and Agrba he's doing what he needs to do, isn't he?
Indeed, he's boxing his fight, and the onus is on the man from Buenos Aires to do something different. And thus far he's settled into the same rhythm once again, and that is a rhythm that is being established by the man in the grey trimmed with purple and black. It's almost like a cox in a rowing boat dictating the tempo for his squad. He tells them when to pick up the pace and they respond. He tells them when to lengthen the stroke and they respond. And I'm just getting the impression that it's Agrba calling the shots up there in the boxing ring. And I simply struggle to understand how Munoz can come all this way and have that victory under his belt from the previous outing and be so accepting of this. And of course, I know it's easier said than done, but we're talking about professional boxers here who know how to do these things and who have a counter to the counter. 20 fights into his professional career now after making his debut back in February 21. And we are not seeing any discernible adaptation in the approach of Munoz, because Agrba is not going to hold his feet and stand there and say, hit me. So it's down to Munoz to try and find that chin, tag that jaw. And there's another solid two-shot salvo as Agrba really sitting down on these shots here now. There's a stab jab to the body. Munoz perhaps getting a little closer, but it's one single shot. And I think the crowd trying to inspire their man once again. And I'm not sure we've seen more than a two-punch combination from Munoz, and that was a wonderful volley of punches from Agrba to send a shower of spray through the night sky here at the Dubai Duty Free Tennis Center. And again, Munoz has got to do something different here. At pains of repeating ourselves from our ringside commentary position, but it is as though we are watching something on a loop. And credit to Agrba, because he's doing what he needs to do. The best chins in boxing are the ones that don't get hit. And after being taken out in his previous contest, Agrba has done an outstanding job ensuring that he's not being clipped on that chin through this portion of the contest. And Munoz, he's got to make it. Does he need to turn it into a barroom brawl? Does he need to turn it into a bit of a back alley rumble? Because he's the one looking frustrated. He's right above our commentary position, and he's just shrugged his shoulders when he's come back to the corner as if to say, well, mummy, this guy's not playing nice with me. He's got to make him do something different and not accept it.
He absolutely does. He absolutely does. And Agrba is boxing well. He's moving well. He's a figure, a study of concentration. But as you say, if Munoz was getting warned by the referee for trying to make it rough, if he was throwing punches and missing, if he was ending up in the ropes, if he was snarling, if he was spitting, if he was doing all of that and still not able to lay a glove on him, then fine. But he isn't doing any of that. As I said, he's just picking up his feet in a nice kind of dainty fashion, following his man across the ring and allowing him to turn out of trouble whenever he feels like it, and throwing the odd punch, but no more than that. And his vibe seems to be, well, what am I supposed to do? This guy doesn't want to fight. You have to make him fight. You have to make him fight. This is absolute garbage from Munoz, to be honest with you.
As we move into the 10th round, Ruben Munoz has fallen into a pace here that is right to Agrba's liking. And now he's trying to set a trap for Munoz, set a trap for Agrba by not coming forward and not pursuing him. And I think this will suit Agrba just fine, because I don't think he's going to stay there and try and step inside and land a six-punch combination. I think he's content to peck and poke, land a single shot, get back out, and if that's what Agrba's approach is going to be, then Munoz is going to find himself needing a sweetly timed single shot counter to get him out of there. Because Agrba can do this all contest long. He's well on his way to winning this single title eliminator, and with only 3 rounds of boxing scheduled to remain, Munoz is going deeper and deeper into the realm where he needs another single shot KO. Because 9 rounds have been completed and Munoz has pursued him around the boxing ring. Now he's electing to stay flat-footed, trying to draw Agrba to him. But at no point has there been any physicality, at no point has there been any evidence of competitiveness and spirit. And again, I was really it really struck me, that gesture that he made when he went back to the corner. He just shrugged his shoulders, turning his palms up to the ring lights. And I found that really bewildering, because he's the man that has come in here with all the momentum. He's the man that has come in here with the dynamite in his fists after taking his opponent out back in July in Agrba's homeland. And yet this has been a really meek display. Taking jab to the body, you can see he's got that right hand locked and loaded, looking to counter over the jab, but then you're looking for a punch in a lifetime. And Agrba's been caught by it once. I'm not sure that he's going to get caught by it again, because he simply will not commit. Well, I remain absolutely bewildered at the tactical approach that Munoz is bringing to this contest tonight. And his corner right now are absolutely silent. And I've just stolen a glance to my right, and his corner man is sitting there with his mouth agog as though he can't believe what he's seeing either. But that is their job. They've got to remain focused and concentrated and get some instruction and some encouragement and some fire under this man, because this isn't going to get it done. Wow. A world title eliminator, and that was as passive a round as you're likely to see. This man wouldn't go out like that, that's for sure. Even though he would follow his man around at times, he would let that right hand go with bad intentions in his pomp.
He absolutely would, and there was nothing really from either fighter in that round, because as you say, Munoz took the centre of the ring hoping Agrba would come to him, and Agrba wouldn't do that. And I half expected the referee to just call a timeout and tell them, listen, we're here to fight, because the second half of that round, there was barely a punch thrown. Interestingly, on the opposite side of the ring, Edward Kravtsov, who is the promoter who is on Team Khariton, if you like, he's getting really frustrated. And he went over to the corner at one point to have a word with them. I think he's worried over there that the approach maybe that Agrba is taking is leaving him in a little bit of danger, or at least he wants to see him just let his hands go a little bit more at this stage of the fight. But the second half of that round there, that was just a complete and utter non-event.
So we move into the championship rounds. And to Andy's point about Agrba's promoter, of course, this is a sport and it's been billed as an eliminator, but it is also a business. And unless this is staged in St. Petersburg, where Agrba fights off any world title fight, I'm not sure many people would turn up to watch this. And so that is what you have to be mindful of when you are in the professional boxing business as well. Not just getting results, but the manner in which you get those results. The personality that you have outside of the ring, how you go about your craft, how you engage with the media. None of these things are boxing, but they matter in the business of boxing. And we've seen outstanding professionals over the years who, perhaps because those intangibles weren't in place, then they're avoided by other boxers when they're really good. And what do they often say? What was the phrase Don King used to use? He couldn't draw flies to a dump. And so that is how they keep their champions away from really dangerous prospects who aren't perhaps the most crowd-pleasing boxers. Now, of course, not suggesting everyone's going to be a two-way dramatic boxer, but these other things do matter in the boxing business, because it is not purely about sport. Even though sport is the most important thing in climbing the ladder. Here we are, a WBA super lightweight title eliminator, and a man who scored one of the knockouts of the year, truth be told, in his previous outing. Well, he's kept his hands holstered for the majority of the night, and he's not even got into punching distance for this overwhelming majority of this contest. He's elected to not follow his man around, and this resembling a game of tag here right now, rather than professional boxing.
This is absolutely awful. There's no other way to describe it.
So 2 minutes gone, and barely a scoring punch landed. And Munoz, I simply cannot understand the lack of intensity and urgency. All of the work he's done in his pro career to get himself into this position, coming back in against a man he iced back in July, and yet he has not let his hands go with any type of intent at all. I think when they review this film, they are going to be so frustrated, because this is an opportunity, and yet it's as though he doesn't want to seize this opportunity. And I'm sure that both men will have had more intense and competitive spars than we're witnessing right here, right now, in the open-air venue in Dubai. And again, when does the pace pick up? When Agrba elects for it to be picked up. And finally, as the 10-second clapper sounds, Munoz is finally doing what we've been imploring him to do for 10 rounds, 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
He let a couple go there towards the end of the round. This is a fairly bewildering watch, because you've got one fighter, Khariton Agrba, who doesn't want to take any risks at all. Now, I do understand that. I don't find that completely bewildering because of what happened the first time the two of them met. But you can't go through your career like that, I'm afraid. That you just can't. That won't work. But he's been allowed to do it tonight because Munoz has done absolutely nothing until the final 10 seconds of that round. Prior to that, and in the previous round, he's just in the middle of the ring, just somehow hoping that Agrba is going to lose his mind, stand in front of him with his hands down and his chin up and just start swinging. We've got a round remaining here, and it's hard to know what to make of it. As you say, it's a world title eliminator, and it's the lack of urgency is just astonishing.
Well, that touch of gloves insisted upon by the referee might be as close as Munoz has got to Agrba all night, because he just followed him around, and of course that's overstating it, but he pursued him for the first 9 rounds of the contest. Now he's elected to box in this posture. And I think he is going to be so frustrated if this carries on for the remaining 2.5 minutes, that having knocked a man out clean with a highlight reel finish back in July, he's come in an immediate rematch and he has not been able to see whether that doubt can be unearthed and resurfaced, because he's not checked his chin, he's not checked his body, and he's not letting his hands go. Ring generalship, effective aggression, defense and punching. That's the most important thing when you're considering the criteria of scoring a boxing match, and there has been precious little punching, particularly from Munoz tonight. And again, these pecking, poking shots are landing with sufficient enough force to be considered scoring shots. So by virtue of him landing some scoring punches and Munoz landing none, I'd be staggered if Agrba isn't declared a unanimous point decision victor. There is the argument, of course, that Munoz for the first 9 rounds was on the front foot seeking to make the contest, but as we've pointed out previously, aggression can't be rewarded, effective aggression has to be rewarded, and it hasn't been effective from Munoz tonight. Big swing and a miss, but surely we should have seen more of that in the previous round. And Khariton Agrba has got a minute to make it to the winning line here. At least that's how I see it. We've got 3 scoring judges who are using the 10-point must system. But I really struggle to see how you could give Munoz rounds after the first couple where really not much happened. But once Agrba started to peck and poke, Munoz just seemed to accept the tempo that was being dictated by the Russian boxer. And he's running out of time. He's going to need a finish as spectacular as the one he produced in July if he hopes to earn a repeat victory. I don't know the man personally, as he takes a left hand which knocks his hand back, but we're around boxers, we're around competitive individuals in elite sport, and I think he's going to find this performance and this outcome immensely frustrating to deal with. And it's not so much the failure, because that is a part of sport, that is a part of life. I think what he's going to find very difficult to digest is the regret at the manner in which he's approached this opportunity tonight, because he's come all the way from Buenos Aires to Dubai, and he has scarcely laid a glove on a man that he knocked out last July.
That's it, that's the long and short of it. That's exactly what's happened. And first of all, you need to give credit to the winner, and we're sure that will be Agrba. And it's difficult coming back in against an opponent who's knocked you out. He's had a fight in the meantime to try and exercise a few demons, but that's just to reintroduce you to the ritual of fight night. When you see that guy standing opposite you again, the first time since the knockout, it's a moment. It'll put demons into your mind, there's no question about that. And he's got through that, and he was very focused and he was very disciplined. But the question there was not answered of what will happen the next time somebody steps to him. Now, he might just want to delay answering that question. That's what people try and do sometimes. But that question is in the post. For tonight, though, he's won the fight, and you have to give him credit for that. Munoz, that was an inexplicable performance, quite honestly, because he's obviously come here in shape, and he looked confident during the press conference and during the week. The vibe, the kind of strut around him was of a man who felt like he was going to come here and bash the man up for a second time. And it just didn't happen, and he never laid a glove on him. He barely even made contact with him. With his shoulders, with his elbows, with his knees, with his hips, nothing. It was bizarre to watch, wasn't it? It really was.
It most certainly was. So that question will remain surrounding the punch resistance and the chin of Khariton Agrba. But frustratingly, from his perspective, Munoz wasn't able to pose that question tonight, and that surely should have been uppermost in the minds of Munoz and his team as they prepared for this world title eliminator. Credit to the game plan that this man carried out to a T. And again, you don't go into boxing to show how strong a jaw you have and how tough a chin you have. That's not the point. And if the man opposite you cannot lay a glove on you, then that is not the person who has emerged unscathed problem. A very disciplined performance by Khariton Agrba. I think he's done enough to prevail in this WBA super lightweight title eliminator. Big Mo is in position, so let's hand up to our MC to get the official particulars at the conclusion of 12 3-minute rounds of boxing here.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 12 full rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards at ringside. Judge Giuseppe Quartaroni sees it 117 to 111. Judge Rafael Ramos sees it 119 to 109. And finally, Judge Glenn Feldman sees it 120 to 108. Declaring your winner by unanimous decision, Khariton Agrba.
So a scorecard of 120-108 is a shutout victory. And against a man who knocked you out previously, to come in and not even lay a glove or get enough of any round to even take one, I think that speaks to the passivity and the ineffectiveness of the tactical approach implemented by Ruben Munoz tonight. And quite frankly, I struggle to take in and understand what I've just witnessed. But it's Khariton Agrba who has boxed a very good display to get a revenge victory over the man who defeated him in July.
Exactly. You look at those cards there, the 117-111 is 9-3, so you'd imagine that judge just gave Munoz some rounds early on for essentially just coming forward, which judges can tend to do at times. The 119-109, that would have been the same story, but to the tune of just one round. And he's made his way out of the ring behind us there, Munoz. He's travelled all the way over here. I'd imagine he's got pretty well paid for this, because Agrba, I'd have thought, wanted the rematch, or the promotion wanted the rematch, and he would have been able to flex and hold out for a decent purse. And he'll go home with a little bit of a cut up in his hairline, but no damage, none whatsoever, no real miles on the clock. I guess it kind of depends what you're in this sport for, to be honest. He pulled out the win in Ekaterinburg